So do you like that song? Do you believe that the lyrics of that song have any real meaning? You make my dreams come true. Isn't that a bunch of the biggest BS you've ever heard? I don't know how else to say that. I'm going to say that those lyrics right there are probably some of the greatest reasons why relationships don't work. So I've been pondering this whole love thing for 65 years. And it's a question I keep asking over and over and over again. And I've asked the brightest people that I've ever met that question. And everyone has a different answer. Everyone has a different answer. And most answers that you get from people have to deal with this idea of romance, where you meet someone and the lights go on and the energy goes and the hair and the arms stand up, your heart goes a-fluttering, and you're there. I've got the dream of my life as my partner right here, right now. 2 years later, you're looking at him and say, would you put the toilet seat down? You know, you've forgotten it all. So why is that? What is it about that? Because we've identified love with infatuation. We've identified love with sexual attraction. We've identified love with the idea that if we share common interests, that's love. And then 6 months to 2 years later, guess what happens? Poof! The infatuation's gone and there's nothing there. There is no foundation, there's no meaning from which to have a relationship. And that's why there's so much struggle, why there's so much abuse, why there's so much disconnection of people today. So I want to really get down to the idea. So yesterday when I was driving with my wife, I asked this question. And I'm going to probably tick some of you off, and I don't care. Are sex and love, do you have to have them both together? The answer is no. Sex is simply an agreement that you have with someone to do. That's all it is. It has nothing to do with the idea of love, because when we get done with the definition of love that I'm going to present to you, you're going to understand that they're exclusive. They're completely exclusive. Now, we have agreements afterwards about how we express our physicality, but sex has nothing to do with it. So I want to take that off the table right away. I want to take that completely off the table, because when you study the great masters, they talk about self-love. They talk about love of the infinite, the love of God, the love of others. It doesn't include anything to do with sex. So I want to wipe that off. Okay? So having done that, I want to go back to this very premise of what is love. And we always start, at least when I was brought up with the idea that God is love. God is love. So what is God? Well, we know in our minds the best we can come up with is God is infinite. Well, okay. God always was and always will be. Being that there's nothing other than God, then God must be totally accepting of itself, without judgment, having complete freedom to do anything that it chooses at any time in any way. Would that not be a great way of somewhat giving an idea to what this infinite is? Okay, so if God is love, right? If God is love, and then you hear this statement, God loves you. Okay, wait a second. Why would God love you? Why would God love you? Well, it's real simple. If God is infinite, then God created everything out of itself, meaning that you are it in expression, individualized. So wouldn't it, who created you, love you because you are part of it? Right? And what is it doing when it's loving you? It's seeing that all of it is fully present within you. So it can't help but love itself. Is that not what God is doing? It's loving itself. So then we come down to, if God is love, God loves you, then you are love. And what does that mean? It means that at your nature, you are infinite. You have the very power of all that exists within you. You have the freedom to create whatever it is you want. And that's why love is freedom. But yet, when we go into a relationship with people, the first thing we want them to do is we want to confine them to what our view is of it. We take away freedom and we kill love right at that very moment. We absolutely kill love. Now, there's a difference between taking away freedom and having agreements. Because we are in human form, and in human form we have some frailties. And so in frailties, I found, and I wish I discovered this early on in marriage. I'd like you to believe that I had, but really no, this whole idea of agreements with my wife and how we live really started when we started our spiritual journey about 2000. I think that's when we really came into the idea and we explored and we brought agreements in. So from 1972 to 2000, or the first 28 years of our marriage, we didn't know any of this stuff. We were sort of flying by the seat of our pants. Does that make sense? We were by the seat of our pants. We were somehow making it work. We didn't know how, but it didn't have a cohesiveness. It really wasn't deeply centered. It was in many ways superficial, having bought into society. Well, you've got your corporate job, we're raising our 2 sons, so we have to do these things, yada, yada. But it didn't feel good. It really, really didn't feel good until we started to explore. So I want to go a net further. I believe this is the key right here. To express love is a 2-step process, and you cannot separate these 2 steps. It's to fully accept yourself as you are in this moment. So you're fully accepting yourself in this moment as you are, and you're knowing that your true nature is always evolving and becoming more. So that's really almost a paradox. It's almost both sides of the spectrum. It's accepting that you are this being, this creation, this mental atmosphere that you are right now, while at the same time knowing that you're always becoming more. So it's the idea of what is desire. Desire, for me, is an inner calling from within to express myself at a higher level of consciousness. It's not about having something. So if I'm desiring to express myself at a higher level of consciousness, I know that that's the divine spark within me that is calling me forth to be a greater me. Now, I don't live wanting that. I live knowing that. And when I'm living knowing that, I'm stepping into it with every thought, with every word, and with every action. But here's the thing. In our human form, we tend to be weak, and we tend to forget that. And so that's where relationships start to come in. Because relationships, as I define them, and I've learned this from Dr. John D. Martini, is they're to support and grow you, to support and grow me, to support and grow the partner, support and grow everyone. Only reason we're together is to help the person who is with, not help the person, to support the person to awaken to a higher, to awaken to the true nature that is always evolving and becoming more. Now we've got meat around why we're with people. You see, with this meat, we can now begin to really live. It has value, it has meaning in our lives. So let's go on further. What is the foundation for self-love? The foundation for self-love is, number one, you've got to know who you are. You've got to realize and understand that you are an expression of the infinite, that in this moment you are whole and perfect just as you are. And that there is a power within you, acting through you, acting for you in every moment that allows you to consciously or unconsciously create the experience of who you are. That experience will be created by your mental atmosphere. You have the power to change that mental atmosphere through what you think, who you hang around with, through what you watch, what you read, and how you speak to yourself. And the more you change that mental atmosphere, the more the outer experience of your life begins to change. So when you can embody that you are the infinite, then there's a power within you that's acting through you, acting for you. You now have the basis that there's nothing that can get in the way of what you desire to experience. Now, once you know that that's who you are, now we have to embrace the idea that you are a unique and whole expression of the infinite. And being unique means what makes you unique, and that is to know what you value. I had a beautiful experience with a beautiful woman this week who asked me to have a consultation, and we sat down one-on-one, and we did the values. In that, it not only gave me greater clarity, but I know it provided greater clarity within the individual so that they could see their life from a whole new perspective. A perspective that maybe was clouded by the nonsense of daily life, clouded by the shroud of the race consciousness or the human consciousness that is everywhere present, that's hiding the true nature of what we are. So once we understand our values, it's what makes us unique. Then it's to live our values in service first to ourselves and then to others. You see, when we're living our values, it's always about self-love. When we're living our values, we're saying to the universe, I love myself so much that I'm going to live my values despite anything. And by living my values, I'm now in service to humanity as such. And being of service to humanity, when we can take our values and we can tap them into how we do our career, oh my God, do you realize you open the door to infinite wealth? You open the door to more and more of whatever you believe is valuable in your life to just pour into you, because the more service you provide out from what you value, see, you never tire. People say, Lee, you go to Maui, and when you go to Maui, you do workshops with people on Maui. You go to Maui, you speak at a church there. Why don't you do a vacation? Wait, why would I do a vacation from what I love? Are you hearing that? You see, there's a myth involved. The question is, if you're doing a job right now, I would highly ask you, how do you center your values doing that job so it's a gift you're bringing? If you're selling automobiles, are you bringing the greatest you that's providing the greatest service to make an impact on someone buying a vehicle that'll give them great joy? If you're doing that with that consciousness, that's a value, and those people are going to recommend people to buy. Same thing in real estate. Same thing if you're a teacher. If you're there concerned really into the aspect of helping that person to process, to think for themselves. See, do you notice I said think for themselves and not memorize nonsense? There's a real difference between who a good teacher is. A good teacher teaches a person to be independent, to be a free thinker, to go beyond what they're being told, to question everything. That's a true teacher. So to do that is the foundation of self-love. Okay, now that we've got self-love, what about these other people in the world? Well, that's really true too. You have to know who they are. You have to know that they are an individualized expression of the infinite. You have to know that they have their own values. And here's the thing, people will always act from their highest values or what they perceive are their highest values. So when someone is doing something, they're never doing it for you. They're doing it for themselves, acting from that which gives them the most juice, whether they're conscious or unconscious of it. And so then our role is to support and accept them as they are. And then I put a slash and I said, or accept them and let them be. You see, when you love someone, it does not mean you have to like them. Did you? I got one catty laugh out of that. There should have been a whole group of you doing that, because I know there's a lot of people that you know that you don't like. But I want to say this, you can love them. See, by loving them, you know that they're an expression of the infinite. By loving them, you're accepting, yes, you are a flaming in this moment by the way you're demonstrating. You can accept that's where they are. You can accept that that is their path right now. That's their path. That's where they are. That's the consciousness where they're at in their level of involvement. They can't be any further than that at this time. So accept them where they are. Don't try to change them. You can't. If you're trying to change someone, you're going to be miserable. Absolutely, you can't change anybody. My wife, if she had tried to change me, she would be in a mental institution. She probably would have hung herself by 20 different ropes. There have been people, I can remember being at Allstate. I was an up-and-coming management trainee, and my next promotion would have been to Chicago. And they said, Lee, you've got everything in the world going for you, except we need you to do one thing, and then we'll move you. And I said, what's the one thing? They said, you have to shave your mustache. I started to put my resume out. And I did, and I got another job. Because I wasn't going to change to fit the mold that was being presented to me. Because I had a value on individual expression that was greater than a value on conforming. I didn't realize it. I thought I was just a brash young man at that time, and I probably was. But it's an example how intuitively I wasn't going to change. Now, do you know when I did shave my mustache? I had my mustache for 23 years. Do you know why I shaved my mustache? Because it got gray in it, and it made me look old. So it was an inspiration from within that wanted to be vain enough to look younger at that moment. Isn't that interesting? So had my wife said, Lee, shave your mustache, shave your mustache, shave your mustache, no. So last year, I went to Vipassana, and I grew a mustache out for a month. Or not a mustache, a whole beard for a month. Never have done that before. And some people in here, I'm not going to name it, said, oh, you look wise. You look very mature. Someone even said, wear white robes and become a guru, and you can start a cult. But here's what happened. This is really sad. It's history repeating itself. I looked in the mirror, and I said, who is that old man? And that day, the beard came off, and my wife looked at me, why'd you shave it? I said, I looked old. See, it's always from within. I'm using very superficial ideas. I'll use one that's very recent. When I was in Peru and I went on this bland diet and I purified my system of everything that you could imagine, one of the things that I realized there is I had a sugar Jones. Sugar Jones meaning I was addicted to sugar, not realizing I was addicted to sugar, and that sugar is in everything. Well, when I got off of it, I said, who is this Lee Wolak that's not on sugar? And I said, whoever he is, I really like him. I liked the way it felt. I liked the way my energy was. I didn't have spikes in my energy going up and down, because that's what sugar does. It gives you those spikes that go up and down. And then I looked in and started realizing the health benefits. So it's been now 90 days or thereabouts. I've not had sugar in any way, shape, or form or fashion other than in fruit. But you see, I had to realize that it wasn't someone telling me. You see, when someone tells you to do something, you're going to rebel. It's when there's an internal realization within you that it works. So what I'm trying to get you to understand is that in love, you have to know who you are. You have to know that you're an individualized expression of the infinite, and that is enough. And then you have to accept that no matter where you are, that you don't have a lot of hair on the top of your head. In my case, that this is who you are, this is how old you are, this is where you live. You accept all of that. You're married to a woman for 44 years. You can't be out there going around finding all these other beautiful women. You can't do that. Why? Not because of love, but because I have an agreement with her. And I specifically bring that up to you because I can love every person in this room as much as I love Jean, as much as I love her or I love anything. However, the specialty about Jean is I formed agreements with her that I honor. See, that's where I think the idea of knowing who you are, knowing what you value, understanding what your partner values, and then forming agreements, so it's not a loss of freedom, it's a free choice to be in that agreement. Does that make sense? See, I freely chose to be in that agreement, therefore it is not binding to me, therefore I will not rebel against it. Because I'm going to venture to say, whether you want to admit it or not, at the very core of all that you are, freedom is the thing you desire most and more than anything. And you will rebel against anything and anyone who tries to take that freedom away. And you may repress it and repress it and repress it, and then all of a sudden, bam, it's going to hit you in one form or another. And you're going to have to come back to the idea that you were born to be free. And when you understand you were born to be free, you're now able to love yourself. And when you're able to love yourself, you're now able to love others. Let's pray. I want to thank you for joining us today. I am so grateful that you took your time to watch or listen to this message. If you found this message beneficial, I would ask you to go to our website. Once there, click on the Contribute button and experience the joy of conscious and purposeful giving. It is through your gifts that we are able to bring this message to the world. I would also ask you to please share this message with anyone you feel might benefit. Again, I want to thank you for joining me and the Agape community as together we bring joy to life.